The Majestic Elk is the symbol of real Challenge butter. It's been on our package for over 100 years. And we still make Challenge the same way we always have. 100% pure and churned fresh daily from the finest pasteurized sweet cream. It's why Challenge is a leading brand of butter in the West. And now it's available in your local store. Whether you're spreading it on a hot muffin or using it to make a silky smooth sauce, you'll find it makes a real difference in anything you serve. Real Challenge, real difference.
Why do we cook? We cook for food, for family, and for friends. We cook to bring people together.
Honey, that looks good. Pardon my fork.
Greg Buerger, how are you doing?
Hey, pretty good today.
I really appreciate you calling in. Greg is the 2018 dessert champion at the World Food Championships and the $10,000 earner. You got to tell me, man, you've been doing competition for a long time. How did it feel to take home the big prize?
Well, it really felt like a surprise, although it shouldn't have been a surprise because we have been competing for about 5 or 6 years in the World Food Championships. So we have been kind of working our way up towards winning, but never hitting the jackpot. And when we did, it just sort of knocked us over.
Mm-hmm. You got real close last year, though.
Actually, we had been knocking on the door for 3 years, and the particular competition that we won was the dessert competition. And 3 years ago, we came in at we came in fourth, and then the year before this, we came in second. And of course, this year we hit the jackpot. So we've been working on it. We've been working on competing, and that's really the key, because the difference between food sport and just competing to make a dish is considerable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I have to tell you, it's pretty fascinating to me because a lot of the folks that we talk to that have been involved in the food sport and competition, they tend to be like, just shy of the top 10 for 3 or 4 years, and then they hit the big one. But you're one of the first people I've talked to that really was like consistently in the top 10 hitting that mark.
I kind of felt we were onto something, and then take it as with any competition. It takes a little luck, and I think that played a pretty big part.
Yeah, there's certainly a component of that, and there's like this marriage of art and science, and then that sprinkling of luck, right? I feel that's right. Just about anything that you do, but especially true with food.
It is, and when you throw in the variables that you have to deal with in these competitions, such as the weather. It gets to lean on luck a little more than not.
So you've competed in which categories? You've been in recipe, you've been in bacon.
Yeah, actually, when we first started doing this, I was assisting my wife, who now is part of my team. And she did bacon, and then basically, I think 4 years ago I made a shot at the recipe category, and I think I got in about 16th on that, no money, and then I moved on to dessert, and really started developing a signature dish, and something that I could count on to be competitive with.
Sure, you found your niche.
A little bit. Is that how you say that? Niche?
I think it's contextual because I always tell people niches make riches.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're doing it, and you're doing it the right way in dessert. And boy, what you said about the temperature having a huge impact on it, that is so true. I mean, anybody that's ever made a meringue or an ice cream knows that.
Well, last year, the competition was in Orange Beach, Alabama, which is right on the coast in Alabama. A lot of people don't realize there's a coast in Alabama, and I didn't until I got there. But we hit a day, or I think 2 days, where it was in excess of 100 degrees in the cooking area, and I mean, that an old guy like me, I was soaking wet at the end of the competition, and it's a good example of what elements come into play in something like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we competed we didn't compete. We were sous chefing for someone in Buerger, and being next to that hot grill, running just as hot as it'll go because we're trying to cook those burgers fast in that heat because we caught just the tail end of the heat wave. That was something.
Oh, you were there then this last year in Orange Beach?
Mm-hmm.
And what were you competing in? What was that?
Buerger.
What was it?
Buerger.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Yeah. We cooked with the fabulous Suzanne Duplantis. She was awesome. And honestly, it kind of gave me the itch. It kind of makes me want to do competition myself.
Yeah, and that's kind of how people get hooked on it, I think. I was, a sous chefing for my wife, and sooner or later, a number of people in our family all started coming along. Our daughters started competing, my sister-in-law, things like that. And so it gets you thinking, hey, maybe I could do this, and that's how it was for us.
Oh, yeah. And now you're classified as a home cook, and I always like seeing people like you win because it really highlights what they say. You don't have to be a chef to win. You can be a home cook.
Well, yes, I think that's been a big part of the attraction of the world food. I mean, prior to starting with the world food, our family, extended family, we'd compete at the state fair here in Phoenix, and that's how we got into it. It's fun, and we've carried that forward into the world food. It's a fun thing to do.
Mm-hmm. And now you living in Phoenix, I get the feeling that, one, cooking outdoors underneath of a tent, and then two, having that extreme humidity from the ocean was probably a little bit different than the high temperatures in Phoenix, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Usually, the state fair here is in, I don't know why they do that, in the middle of summer, and so you're always dealing with 100+ temperatures here also, but it was somewhat different in Orange Beach.
Yeah. It's always very different when you're going out of state and you're not, cooking in your element. It's always just different. You never really know how it's going to be different until you get there.
Well, and you have different equipment. That's another big thing, a variable that plays into it. I mean, you're not quite used to the stove you're using or the blender that you're given, and so on and so forth. So that's another element that you kind of have to adjust to. Mm-hmm. You can be sure when you do this, and having sous chef yourself in a recent one, something's going to go wrong. And it, for sure, multiple things will probably go wrong as you go through it. So a lot of it is surviving those things and how well you do that.
Most certainly. I have mentioned this on the show a time or two, but I dropped our big main burger patty in the final. And fortunately, my wife was there sous chefing with me, and she had already made up a second burger patty. And honestly, I think it looked more beautiful than the first. And so it was fine. It worked out. But, oh yeah, you're battling the elements. Hey, Greg, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves here. I wanted to ask you what it was you cooked in this last year's WFC.
As you know, when you have a category, there you cook usually two dishes in the first round: a structured dish and a signature dish. And the last year in dessert, the structured dish was a tart. Okay, and it had a few other requirements wrapped around it. You had to use a specific tart dish that was being one of the sponsors, and a few other things, were tied around it. But anyhow, we ended up winning it in the finals with that tart dish that we created, which was a ginger snap caramel apple tart.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
And it basically had a ginger snap crust with salted pecans in it, and a layer of cheesecake, and then apples, and then a few other things on top, and so on. A layered tart. So that was our original structured dish last year, and it ended up carrying us all the way to the finals. Man,
that is incredible. And then what did you guys cook for the final?
The exact same thing.
You did it a second time.
Pardon me?
Am I getting that right? You cooked that twice for both the first round and the final round?
Absolutely.
That is brilliant, because it did so well in the first round.
You go with what got you there, and we really felt we'd come up with a good recipe, and so we just did it again. It made it easy.
You know what, Greg? I just realized they have a different round of judges for the top 10, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. A whole different round.
My goodness. I wonder how many people have thought about that before you.
Well, the revelations that have come year after year in these competitions has been amazing. You'd think by the time you did this 4 or 5 times, you'd go, I know what to expect, and the whole. That's another thing that makes this very unique competition, is that they have a judging technique. They call it the EAT process or whatever for judging, and you have to follow that pretty. It's a pretty tight process all the way around. So that is, you will get another set of judges, and you may end up with a set that doesn't care for tarts. So you just take your shot.
And what's funny is several of the classically trained chefs that I've talked to, they talked about how the chefy tricks that they like to do don't get them as far as when they're just cooking straight from the heart, something that they would want to feed their families.
Yes, I hear that.
Mm-hmm. I'm actually really curious now, what was your cooking background before you guys started doing competition?
Following my wife around.
All right. Just kind of sous chefing for her.
What's for dinner? What for dinner? And as and my kind of a great part of the dimensions of what we've done has been with the online contests. Okay, recipe contests, if you will. And so I kind of got in that a little bit with my wife, and then we started doing state fair. I did my own thing there, and then we went to this, and I started doing my own thing. I mean, but usually, the other thing that I really want to point out about this competition, it's a team sport. Okay, it is not, me, Greg, the big chef, doing my thing. It's really, really takes a team to do this, and I can't push enough of the credit for a win in that, and you'll see other people including chefs, because you see chefs show up with their own van, 3 or 4 sous chefs to go with them, but they still will always give credit in these competitions to the team. And basically I grew up eating my wife's food and following a little direction. I do follow direction well.
Mm-hmm. As you need to, both in cooking and in marriage, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we're married 40 years now, so we're used to working together, and we know who's running the show.
Wow, 40 years. Congratulations.
Thank you.
My wife and I just passed we haven't yet passed the 11-year mark, but I'm looking forward to be cooking with my wife at food competitions, once we hit that 40 mark.
Good luck to you.
So, wow, this is fascinating to me. I mean, do you have any idea what was, I guess, your wife's first motivation to start doing some of the cooking competitions and like recipe submissions and stuff?
Yeah. Actually, she about 10 or 12 years ago, she won the national Spam championship. Okay. And a lot of people laugh about Spam, but I want to tell you, there's a lot of people love Spam out there.
Oh yeah.
And that was a pretty big championship to win online. Well, actually, she won it through the state fair, and that sort of propelled her into new heights, and so that's kind of what got us going.
That's really fascinating to me. And Spam, boy, you're right. That is a big one.
It is.
Wow. Okay. And so it was through just like your state fair, and it was kind of sponsored by them. And I assume that now, like once that happened, boy, the bug probably just hit. Did it hit her and yourself, or was it her and you kind of came into it later on?
It was her. It was her. And in the beginning, I mean, she wanted to, her family, whole family. I mean, she's got eight kids in her family, and they all competed, and it just kind of drew us in, and then, it became a family fun thing. We were competing for aprons,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what's funny, Greg, that is not something that is foreign to me. I've heard that a number of different times. You look at the 2017 seafood champion, Kim Bannock, her husband, Mark, and great people, by the way. I really enjoy talking to them, but Mark has started really embracing the competition. And last year he won I forget what they called it. It was for the grandpas and the grandmothers. It was the grand something. I'm going to screw the name up here, but now he's competing at the WFC in his own category next year. So it really does kind of suck the whole family in, doesn't it?
Oh, sure, and that takes you back to that. It's a team deal. Okay, I mean, people, shouldn't and don't take credit for the recipes they come up with or the techniques. It's usually a collaborative thing, and so that's why you see a family is a natural element.
Mm-hmm, most definitely. And plus, you're now having the sous chefs that you were able to cook with all year long.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because there is a certain familiarity, like cooking, especially at that level and at that speed, there's a dance that's happening. One of the reasons why I dropped that burger in our top 10 category is because I just, I was grabbing it up and I wasn't paying attention and I bumped into somebody and I dropped it. And it's a dance that you're doing. You have to kind of have the eyes in the back of your head and be aware of where your team is.
Right. And you have to have thought through what if situations.
Mm-hmm.
If this goes south, what do we do with it? And having three minds working on those options is very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, before we get too far away from it, I did want to ask, what were some of the other competitions that you guys won before making your way over to the WFC?
Well, see, I had what was called the Kikkoman Grill Master Challenge at the Arizona State Fair. That was a situation where it ended up that my wife, and my sister-in-law were the finalists, and we competed live on the fairway there in the State Fair, again at 110 degrees, and that was a $1,000 prize. And I beat out my wife and sister-in-law, which was good for me to do that. And then I think last year, actually, within weeks of going to the World Food, there was a local Rianite Wine Ultimate Chili Challenge here in Phoenix, and picked up a cool $1,000. Again, that was in our lovely heat. Also, seems to be a constant with me, isn't it? Working in heat, and so that and my wife has won numerous online contests, various things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It comes back around to that whole family competition thing. It's really fascinating to me that you're in the money here with a lot of these, and it's very impressive I still kind of consider myself an outsider on a lot of this food sport stuff. But when I start talking to people where they go, yeah, I won this thing that was $2,000 here, there was $1,000 here, and it's all just kind of going into the fund that's going to take you to the big one at the end of the season. That is really fascinating to me. I want to talk to you a little bit more about it. We do have to take a real quick break, but we're going to be coming right back with the 2018 Dessert World Food Champion, Greg Buerger. Hold on, stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Gotham steel pans have sold millions all around the world. I'm Chef Daniel Green, and I'm the front man to tell everyone what a brilliant product they are. I've got 11 cookbooks out on healthy eating, and that's why I love Gotham steel pans. They've got a titanium ceramic finish, which makes you sear and cook food professionally, but without the oils and fats that we normally need to cook. Check out gothamsteel.com and see all of the different variety of pans that we've got that everyone has loved across the world.
As you all know, I love to smoke and grill. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be fish, pork, pies, cookies. I don't care. I will throw it on the grill. That's how much I love grilling and smoking. And that's why I love Cowboy brand charcoal. They're always my go-to because they're of the highest quality. All hardwoods, mostly oak and hickory. They light faster. They burn longer, hotter, cleaner, It's everything that you could want out of your charcoal and more. Make sure you're going to cowboycharcoal.com. Check out their full lineup of products today. Cowboy Charcoal. And we're back with the dessert world food champion, Greg Buerger. Greg, we were just talking about some of the competitions that you were doing, well, and still are doing. And isn't it interesting how, I don't know, once you start doing these and the level of competition that you're at, and when the money starts coming in, where's that delineating line, between just a fun hobby and then something that's kind of a moneymaker for your family?
Oh, I don't know. I suppose you start hitting the 10K range consistently. It becomes a taxable issue. But I've never planned on making a living, although I'm retired at this point in time, and you'd have to really be doing some stuff to be relying on for groceries.
Yeah, that is a fact. That is a fact. It still is one of those things where I'm like, man, if you could find a way to make money doing your hobby, although I think a lot of people in your position would be parlaying it into, a recipe book or cooking classes or something like that. But like you said, you're retired and this is just kind of a fun hobby for you, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. More than anything else. And I don't know, I see people that, are kind of, if you move into the level where you have a blog and you have a website, and there are a number of people that are competing in world food that are really totally into this. I mean, and they're looking for sponsors, that whole element to make money at it. And I think the retired group, people that are doing it for fun and for a hobby, are in the minority here. I think there a lot of people are foodies. They're into it 100%, and they're looking for sponsors, and they're looking for championships and notoriety. And going to the finals here is kind of held out as that that element that gives them some exposure. And so I think we're kind of in the minority here. I think other people are working on all the dimensions of food.
I would agree. I would agree with that. I do think that you're in the minority in that you're just doing it purely as like a fun hobby exercise. I would argue, though, I think that might give you the upper hand in a lot of situations.
Well, it might, it might do that. And actually, the thing that drives us is how food tastes. And if it doesn't taste good, that's when we throw it out and try something else. And a lot of people, I think, cook for how it is presented and things like that. So I'd kind of agree with you.
Yeah, because as a home cook, you really focus a lot more on, does it look appealing if it's going on a dining room table? For your family, that's a little bit different from if it's going out as a dish in your restaurant. And you have the freedom to be a bit more playful with what you cook, how things taste. And maybe I'm off base here. I'm not a chef. I can call myself a home cook, but I haven't done hardly any competition outside of a few barbecue competitions and things. But I do feel like a lot of times the home cooks that start getting to this upper echelon, it's because they're able to just really focus on what tastes good and instead of being this beautiful, elaborate gastronomic sculpture, you're focusing on something that you'd just be very proud to serve to your family and friends.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you're willing to take a few chances outside the box on things. If you're reading how the judges will look at what you do, and you read it correctly, that can give you a real edge.
Yeah, most certainly. I 100% agree with that. I think that that's something that all of the competitors have said. There's such a wide range of reasons why you might not win or you might get marked down, from everything from, I can't tell you how many times I've heard this. I want to say 3 or 4 times now. I've had people competing at the World Food Championships tell me, yeah, the first couple of years I cooked a thing and all of my friends said, oh, wow, that's delicious. Let's see here. A burger that was wrapped in a tortilla comes to mind. A shrimp scampi that was made into a little pocket like an empanada. And when those dishes come in front of the judges are expecting a shrimp scampi or they're expecting a burger. And when it doesn't look that way, it can throw them off. And I do think that the home cooks tend to pay more attention to that. Does this look like a dessert? You wouldn't want to make a cake that looks like a steak dinner for the World Food Championships. It's not a place where that's going to be appreciated.
Yeah. A good example of that is, a couple of years ago, there was one of the contests, and it centered around making a sandwich. And, maybe it was sandwich. It could have been. But anyhow, the particular sandwich, and that escapes me right now, it was a shrimp po' boy. No, it didn't escape me totally. And the classic shrimp po' boy is made with a hard roll, a crispy French roll, if you will, something like that, And if you didn't, it was kind of articulated that you could take your chance on get on a brioche roll or something like that, but that the judges were expecting a hard roll. Mm-hmm. So you walk that fine line. Do I impress them with how this brioche roll was really good? Or do I actually lose points because there are some hardliners and they're going, well, it's not a hard roll, I'm sorry, knock it off. And that plays back into what are the judges looking for? What's the criteria that they're judging against? And, how much do I want to stay with that? How much do I want to play with something else? And, I think that's a big element of it.
Yes, most certainly. And I think it's an element that a lot of people don't pay attention to, at least not in their first time or maybe even their second time.
Well, they all go, oh, God, I've got a great whatever, and that everybody, all the family loves, and they just ask me to do it over and over again. But if it isn't exactly what the judges are looking for, it's all for naught.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Exactly. That's a hard lesson to learn. That's right up there with not getting your dish in on time,
Oh, yeah. That's for sure a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and the big difference between the first contest, you present a presentation plate and 5 servings. In the second competition, it's a presentation plate and 10 servings. Well, what does that mean? That means that you have to adjust your recipes to make enough for 10, and you have to cook 10 versus 5, Mm-hmm. So it kind of, I think that sneaks up on people. I know in my case, when we were doing this tarts, I got there and I made enough ginger snap crust for 1 tart, but I really needed 2 to serve 10 people. And all of a sudden I looked down and I didn't have any more crust. And so I had to make it on the run, right there on the spot. And those are the type of things that sneak up on people when they do this.
Yeah, most certainly. And not realizing how much that changes, stuff like that. It's just, and especially when you're bringing all of your own stuff, you're bringing all of your own ingredients, you're bringing all of your own utensils, you're doing all of that yourself. You're not being provided with anything beyond just the presentation plate and the cooking surfaces, It really can throw people for a loop.
Right.
But you, of course, you're a seasoned veteran now. And so I'm sure you've never forgotten any ingredients or never had not enough ingredient, right?
Well, my wife was in the chicken contest last year that preceded my contest, and she was working on hers, and I was back in the condo, which luckily was right up the street from the contest. And what she was doing relied heavily on phyllo dough. And all of a sudden the phone rings, the cell phone. She forgot the phyllo.
Oh, man.
So here I am booking on down the street with a couple of things of phyllo in my hand, to bring it, So that happens invariably every time we do this. We screw the pooch on some of that.
That's super funny. It always happens, and it's not just you, it's everybody, and when you hit that moment, is it an integral part of your recipe? And if it is, how do you find somebody that can go and get you some? And if it's not, can you just kind of readjust and adapt and overcome? I don't know. It's such an interesting fine line to walk. I remember when we were cooking, and it was in the first round, but it was our second burger that we were doing. It called for onion powder in the recipe, and I could not get the top off of that onion powder. And eventually I just ended up putting it down, and I just chopped the top off real quick with a chef's knife, spilled some, but had enough left to where we could put it in our recipe. And, it's just, you do what you have to do in the moment.
That's right. That is, I've done the same thing myself, in fact. But the other thing about it that I want to say is a good thing with the world food is the sense of community that people have. One of the times we were doing this, we forgot cinnamon, which was a key element. I mean, we just didn't have it, and we didn't have time to go back to the room and so on. So we just started begging people around us, "Have you got any cinnamon?" And sure enough, some people threw us a thing of cinnamon and saved the day for us. So that's one of the good things about this contest is that there's a lot of good people doing it, and they're not. It's not a cutthroat atmosphere, if you will. It's not a chopped situation,
I'm really glad that you brought that up because it's very true. The camaraderie between all of the competitors, it's really incredible. It's like the food just kind of glues us together. And even though you want to win, the competition's almost more you against the clock and you against yourself. Did you bring everything that you need? Are you cooking it the same way you normally do? When you're in the moment, at least for me, it doesn't even really feel like I'm competing against these other people.
Right. Yeah, it is that way.
That's really, that's great that you were able to get some cinnamon. I think we had something similar happen with a can opener. I couldn't find the can opener. And then, after the fact, as we're cleaning up, I find the can opener underneath of something else.
Absolutely. Being prepared, that's what it boils down to. And just expect trouble because it's going to happen.
That's right. Hey, I forgot to ask you, what was your golden ticket winning recipe this past year?
It was the fact that I was in top 10 the year before.
Oh, of course. Yes. You've been in top 10. Let's see here.
Three times. Yeah. You didn't get a paid entry, which I got this year. You just got an entry. automatically.
Right. Yes. Do you remember what it was that got you your first golden ticket? What's it been now? 3 years ago, right?
They have a online contest that countrywide.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, the Taste of America, right?
Yeah, something America, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they've had that now 2 or 3 or 4 years, and that was how. If you what is it? I think if you win your state, it's by state, you get a free entry.
Right.
And if you come in second or third, you get a golden ticket. And I believe it was through that. And I think my wife has gotten entries through that a couple times. There are also some buku other contests throughout the country that you win a golden ticket if you win that contest. So there's a few ancillary contests that you can get a golden ticket.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. Because there are some barbecue competitions that'll have golden tickets available. There's, let's see here, Gotham Steel, who's one of the sponsors of the WFC. They have a couple of golden tickets or 3 golden tickets, something like that. Yeah. So there's a bunch of different ways to get in, but I know the Taste of America Challenge is the most common one.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's an easy way, but I think it's easier than going to a barbecue competition, because that's so competitive that this kind of opens it up to a lot of the home cooks out there that want to compete.
I do feel like the dessert category is one of the more competitive out there, though. Are you not feeling that way?
Actually, I rank them. I think barbecue is probably the most competitive, and that was really the core of all contests that the world food started from. But I think the toughest of all is seafood. I think my wife may have done that one time, and when you make a plate full of lobster, come on, you're going to win something,
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's a tough. You just look at what wins it every year and what comes up against it, and it is the first one. They just closed the seafood contest a few days ago for this year because they've had so many people wanting to get in it, and so that would be my choice of the toughest of all. Seafood dessert, it's such an open contest, except that they always throw something at you as a structured element that is not your favorite thing to do. 2 years ago it was a jelly roll, and we had a lot of fun doing that one. But yeah, so that it has a lot of options to it, but they tend to throw something kind of offbeat in there to and to make a tart and use a specific dish to make it, and things like that. It's they make it a little bit of a competitive thing.
Sure. They add those little extra things that I don't know, makes it a little bit more of a competition. Not, I won't say even the playing field, but they're adding some parameters there.
They do, and it's a considerable number of parameters. So that makes it interesting.
Now, you as a dessert competitor, you might not like this, so I apologize in advance, but I always am thinking, like, if I were the one picking out what the structured dish was, could I go out of the box? How angry would it make you if you found out that the structured dish was a dessert taco?
Oh, I like that whole thing. It's anything. See that's basically levels the playing field in my mind when you see something like that. So you give us something to shoot at like that, and I think that's where your home cooks will excel, because there aren't any classic tacos out there that I know of.
Mm-hmm.
And usually you get online right away and see if there are, and I tell you, today's world where you can get online and get recipes and see what's out there has greatly enhanced the competition in this. I mean, you didn't always have this resource of the internet, and I think it makes a big difference.
Yes, it really has changed how everything operates. I'm at that sweet spot age where I didn't really have the internet in high school, and then I had it after in college, but like later in college, you know. My wife has these memories about going through undergrad and having to go to their giant library and just sort through pages and I forget now what those films are where they're on the teeny tiny rolls and you have the big screen that you read them from, you know. And then when she got into graduate school, now all of a sudden the internet was just blowing up. And yeah, it's just kind of interesting to look at how that's happened. You know, that we might be the last or one of the last generations to have experienced that.
Oh, I'm sure. Now, you mentioned the dessert taco. See, they haven't really announced the structured dessert dish for this year. Do you have a little inside line on this that you could pass along and blurb it? You could bleep it out on the radio and say, "I'm going to give them an idea here," or not.
I'll tell you. I wish I did. Honestly, I wish I did, because it would be fun kind of letting you guys dangle and stringing you along.
I guess it would.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I am hoping that they go a little bit more outside of the box. I think it would be fun to have everybody have to make like you said, a dessert taco or a dessert pizza, or I don't know, empanada. Where else could we go? Let me ask you this, Greg. If you could do any structured dish, and not just you personally, but if you could see it in the competition and everyone else that you're competing against had to do the structured dish as well, what would you choose?
Well, you know, I probably play to my strength, and one of our go-to signature dish is an apple dumpling. So everybody loves apple pie. You know, it would amaze me if we'd go to the fair out here and there would be a dessert competition. And every year, chocolate cake would win. I mean, hands down, you did a chocolate cake, you got in the finals and so on. And so it's one of those things everybody loves. Parfait, everybody loves chocolate cake, and everybody loves apple pie, and so we've kind of just accepted that, and that would be where I would go. I would go to what everybody likes, you know, and ultimately it's about a judge looking at it and tasting it and going, yeah, that was good, and so that's what I would do.
That's interesting. Okay. Yeah. Do you have anything that you put in like an apple dumpling that's, I mean, I don't want you to give away any family secrets, but do you have anything for any aspiring dessert chefs out there that you might want to give a little insider info about how you do yours?
Not really. It's just a matter of getting something that works and that you can reproduce at 110 degrees and on a stove you're not used to, on an oven you're not used to. That's really the key. Is how confident are you that you can put some apples together with something, and that'll be a hit.
I see. I gotcha. I do have one more question for you along that vein. What do you like to make your crust with? And, well, let me ask this. Are we talking vegetable shortening? Are we talking lard? Are we talking ghee?
Well, we'd like to go to lard when we're using something like that. Another thing that worked for my wife with Spam, if you will, is phyllo dough, and that it's a relatively hard to work with, but it's unique, and there are a few other doughs like that you can vary. But yeah, if I have need for something, lard is where I would go.
My man, I love it. Hey, Greg, this has been fantastic talking to you, my friend. You don't do too much of the social media stuff. You don't have a blog. Am I right on that?
Actually, my wife does. We just have, and I assist her with it. It's called Passion for Meatloaf.
Passion for Meatloaf.
Yeah.
I love that. I'm going to go out, I'm going to find that, and I will make sure to link it underneath of this episode on pardonmyfork.com. And, of course, all of our normal social media that you guys go and look at, we'll have it there, too. Greg, you've been very generous with your time, my friend. Thank you very much. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Hey, thank you. It's been fun.